The Duquesne Dukes did something special last year, winning an A-10 championship and winning a game in the NCAA tournament. What will this year bring? Well, it all gets underway on Monday as they face off against the Lipscomb Bisons. Welcome into the Duquesne Dukes Sports Pregame Show. I'm Jack Morgan. Alongside me, Dylan Pfister, and we're going to discuss this one. Duquesne heading into this season, they're ranked 8th in the preseason poll. Obviously, some people, including maybe myself, felt that was a little underwhelming for a team that had just won the A-10 tournament. But Duquesne, they lost a couple of key guys. So, from the outside looking in, it kind of makes sense. And just talk about the guys they lost. I mean, they lost Day-Day and Jimmy. Those are two big pieces of your tournament team.
Yeah, Jack, you talk about those rankings, and we had, of course, the official rankings, but I did my own research, and I looked at some independent journalists, and I did find that almost everybody had the Duquesne Dukes sitting around 6 to 10 around there. And it certainly has to do with those missing pieces. Obviously, Day-Day Grant gone, Jimmy Clark gone. They both graduated and are on to bigger and better things, both looking to play basketball on the professional level overseas. Another big loss for the Dukes was Trey Williams as well. So Duquesne looked to the transfer portal. They made some moves, and they're going to be looking to kind of put those guys in the places where they see best fit. Also relying on some of those bench pieces from last season who got a lot of opportunity in that NCAA tournament.
Yeah, a couple of those guys. I mean, specifically Jakob Netjes. I mean, he played a huge role in that tournament. He comes back for the Dukes, and presumably he's going to take a big leap as well as Jake DeMichael, right? I mean, DeMichael came onto the scene, burst onto the scene really last year. Obviously, you'd have to assume he's going to be starting for this team.
Yeah, surely we will see Jake DeMichael out there starting, and if not, it will not be long till he comes off the bench. That was one of the most favored Dukes, actually, last season, widely among the whole school. Everybody was talking about Jake DeMichael. They loved the hometown kid, the story. They watched him develop game after game. He got better. And, yeah, you mentioned Jakob Netjes as well. I mean, that was a real sneaky improvement for the Dukes last year.
Oh, yeah.
Another player, another transfer last year that came in and didn't play too well to start off, and he really improved game after game. And then it was in that NCAA tournament win against BYU. He had a career high in points, rebounds, and blocks. We all know how that went on to go. So Jakob Netjes played a big role in that game, and also Matus as well for Duquesne. Another guy that didn't really get a lot of opportunities throughout the season, didn't start at all, but he came off the bench here and there and then really shined in a big moment. So seeing him get more playing time would be big for Duquesne.
Yeah, also, I did want to touch on this. I meant to say this. Duquesne is actually ranked, so in KenPom, they're ranked 142. And it's lower than what you actually thought it would be. I mean, KenPom is pretty widely used by all college basketball analysts, and even to help select the tournament brackets. I mean, for those at-large bids, it's used pretty commonly. But obviously, so Duquesne not really favored much, but Dave Dixon, I do remember at Media Day, he did speak on this. And while I'm not exactly 100% sure what he said, and I don't want to misquote him, he almost touched on the fact that it feels like they're not being valued the way they think that they should. And that's a little powerful if you look at it that way. If the Dukes tend to look at it, if they try and look at it that way, I mean, really could jumpstart them into what will be a more difficult non-conference schedule this year.
Yeah, you can't blame them for having that kind of train of thought there. Yes, you did lose your two main guys in Day-Day and Jimmy, but I wouldn't say that those two players were the reason that the Dukes were winning week after week after week. There were certainly games when this team was not functioning entirely as a unit and the stars were not out, but in the trenches, they relied on those bench guys, and the Dukes came out on top. And again, we saw that in the numbers in the NCAA tournament. that was very exciting play for the young guys coming off the bench for Duquesne. So I definitely don't blame Dave, as he is also returning.
I also thought Dave was a pretty big piece too.
Yeah,
Speaking of which,
averaged over 7 points a game, had over 180 rebounds on the year. That was 5 per game. Dave definitely had a big hand in controlling, those really tough, hard-fought games, and he didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, no, he stayed right here on the bluff, and Dave Dixon is going to be a huge part of this team's success this year, should they have it. But to talk a little bit about those new transfers, you got guys like Trey Dinkins. You also got Jay Sean Corbett, who actually torched you a little bit when he played Chicago State last year. So Duquesne saw Corbett, and they took advantage, and they got him. They also got Cam Crawford as well from Marshall. And it just looks like, and Crawford, once again, Duquesne did play Marshall last year. So Drew Joyce, new head coach for the Dukes, which we can also touch on here, took some of what he saw, Dylan, and kind of applied it to the way he made this team this year in the transfer portal.
You can certainly tell that Drew Joyce was doing a lot of scouting last season. I think he might have known. I think he might have known that this job was going to be his. But yeah, Jack, you touched on Trey Dinkins. I mean, he's going to be huge for the Dukes. Career high 30 points last year at Ryder. That is some scoring ability the Dukes have been missing now that Day-Day Grant and Jimmy Clark are gone. But that is with being said that Dinkins is coming off of an injury from in the offseason and last season. So don't necessarily expect him to start for the Dukes, but I certainly think he'll be a factor off the bench. And that's a similar situation with Cam Crawford. I think Drew Joyce is really going to work these new guys in. He's not going to rush anything. That's what I'm hearing out of practice. But yeah, Cam Crawford, another guy, came from Indiana State. Played at Marshall as well. Career 40% shooter from the floor. Yeah. That could be huge for the Dukes.
100%. By the way, do you want to put it out there? Trey Dinkins he's from Canisius and kind of Sam Fetterman's forte. Had to put it out there because I know Sam's going to watch this. But anyways, Duquesne, so now they got all these pieces here. And you're going to add these tough non-conference games. Drew Joyce's first year of coaching. I mean, is there almost, in your mind, kind of an expectation in your head that it might start off a little slow?
I would say the expectation is definitely there, and I don't think that's wrong. You're getting a new head coach, new pieces all around the board. It's definitely going to be slow, but I'm high on these Dukes. I think they're really going to turn it up towards the season, towards the middle of the season. We talk about all these transfers. These are some legit guys. I mean, Trey Dinkins not only talking about that game high of 30 points. This guy, he led his team in scoring. So the Dukes stole one of their rivals' best players. So he's coming over to the Dukes, and he's going to have an impact for sure.
Yeah, you would have to imagine that he will. But also, I think, like you said, start to bring it on midway through the season. That's what Duquesne did last year. So Duquesne is no stranger to it. They started out 0-6 in the conference last year, and a lot of the talk was just wait. And we waited, and obviously the fans were rewarded with a heck of a ride. Let's dig a little bit into Lipscomb here. They're obviously entering this game underdogs from the ASUN, but a couple guys that could do some damage for the Dukes.
Yeah,
against the Dukes, rather.
I want to talk about Will Pruitt to start. He plays a very crucial role in this Bison's attack. Now, he led the team last year in scoring. He averaged about 15 points a game, and he had 6 rebounds a game as well. But the next 3 players on that list for the highest scoring Bisons last season, they're gone. So Will Pruitt has a lot on his shoulders. He's going to have to make up for a lot of, a lack of former players that were able to contribute. So look for Will Pruitt to have a big impact in this one.
Also, Jacob Ognisevich will also be a guy to look out for as well. He was also tabbed to the preseason All-ASUN team. So definitely a couple guys Duquesne is going to want to look out for, but regardless, we're going to get to our game picks here. With that being said, Duquesne in the second game of the Duquesne Basketball Palooza on Monday night. Did the Dukes come out on top?
I actually, believe it or not, do see the Dukes coming out on top. This is a very, very good Lipscomb team, but despite what we've talked about, I think that Drew Joyce has something special in his pocket, and I think this is a sneaky good Duquesne team. I think the conference has kind of taken for granted those pieces that came off the bench. I'm going to keep going back to it in that NCAA tournament. I think Duquesne has a lot of sneaky players that Lipscomb isn't going to be ready for. So I'm going to have a score prediction here. I say Duquesne wins by a score of 80-74.
Alrighty. I think that Duquesne wins as well. Obviously, the Bisons, they're picked. I don't think I even brought this up, but they're picked to finish first in the preseason poll for the ASUN, so definitely a very good team, and not one Duquesne wants to overlook. However, I think Duquesne will get the job done. I think Drew Joyce has his team focused and really ready to play basketball. I feel around that team, from what I've heard and from what I've seen, looks like they are ready, and they are jonesing to get going. So I think Duquesne is going to be ready, going to be fired up out of the gate. They're going to have the ring ceremony, going to have all that palooza, so to speak, and I think they get the job done. I think Duquesne fans are going to go home happy with at least one win in that doubleheader at UPMC Cooper Fieldhouse. Anyways, I'll do it for the Duquesne Sports pregame show. I'm Jack Morgan. Dylan Fisser was saying so long, and enjoy the game.